When my family moved to rural Pennsylvania in the fall of 2017, none of us knew the house had a history. The property sat alone at the end of a narrow gravel road surrounded by thick woods. It wasn't the kind of place you'd expect people to live. It looked abandoned. The paint on the walls was peeling. The wooden porch sagged under its own weight. The windows seemed darker than normal, almost as if something was standing behind them. But the price was unbelievably cheap. My parents saw it as an opportunity. I saw it as a nightmare. The first few weeks were normal. School started. My parents settled into work. Life moved on. Then strange things began happening. Every morning, the attic hatch in the hallway was slightly open. My father would close it. The next day it would be open again. We blamed old hinges. Then came the footsteps. Every night around 2:13 a.m., slow footsteps echoed above my bedroom ceiling. One step. Pause. Another step. Pause. Back and forth. Back and forth. My father checked the attic twice. Nothing. No animals. No birds. No signs of entry. Just dust. For a while we convinced ourselves it was the house settling. Until the night I heard breathing. I woke suddenly. The room was completely dark. But I wasn't alone. Somewhere near my bedroom door. Someone was breathing. Slow. Heavy. Patient. I sat frozen in bed. Listening. The sound lasted nearly 30 seconds. Then stopped. The next morning I searched my room. Nothing was missing. Nothing was out of place. Yet I couldn't shake the feeling that somebody had been standing there watching me sleep. October arrived. The weather became colder. The woods surrounding our house seemed darker every day. One night while doing homework, I heard scratching above my ceiling. Not footsteps. Scratching. Like fingernails dragging across wood. Slowly. Deliberately. I looked up. The scratching stopped. 5 seconds later. It started again. This time directly above me. I grabbed a flashlight and climbed into the attic. The smell hit me first. Rotting wood. Mold. And something else. Something foul. I swept the flashlight around. Old boxes. Dust. Spider webs. Nothing unusual. Then my light landed on something strange. A small pile of food wrappers. Fresh food wrappers. Not old. Not dusty. Fresh. My stomach dropped. Someone had been up there recently. I rushed downstairs and showed my parents. My father went up to investigate. He found even more evidence. Empty water bottles. A blanket. And cigarette butts. Someone had been living inside our attic. The police arrived within an hour. They searched every corner. Nothing. No person. No fingerprints. No explanation. The officer suggested a squatter might have entered through an old roof vent and escaped before we discovered the evidence. That should have been the end of it. But it wasn't. Because 3 nights later, the scratching returned. Only now. It was coming from inside the walls. My father installed security cameras throughout the house. One in the hallway. One facing the attic hatch. One near the back door. For several nights, nothing happened. Then on October 27th, at exactly 2:13 a.m., one camera recorded something. The footage showed the hallway. Completely empty. Silent. Still. Then the attic hatch slowly opened. No hands. No visible person. Just slowly opening. The camera continued recording. Nothing emerged. 30 seconds passed. 1 minute. Then suddenly, a face appeared upside down through the opening. Everyone who watched the footage described it the same way. The face looked human. But wrong. Its eyes were too wide. Its smile stretched unnaturally across its cheeks. It remained motionless for nearly 20 seconds. Watching. Then it disappeared back into darkness. The footage spread through our family instantly. My father called the police again. Officers arrived before sunrise. This time they searched aggressively. And that's when they found something hidden beneath old insulation. A small sleeping area. Blankets. Food. Photographs. Dozens of photographs. Every picture showed our family. Sleeping. Eating. Watching television. Living our lives. Someone had been inside our house for weeks. Maybe months. Taking pictures without our knowledge. But the most disturbing photograph wasn't of my parents. Or my sister. It was me. Sleeping in bed. Taken from only inches away. The date written on the back was from a night when I distinctly remembered hearing breathing beside my door. At that moment I realized something horrifying. The person wasn't just living in our attic. They had been coming into my room. Every single night. The police collected every photograph they found in the attic. There were more than 50. Each one felt more disturbing than the last. The oldest picture showed my family unloading boxes on the day we moved into the house. That meant whoever was taking the pictures had been watching us from the very beginning. The officers questioned neighbors, but the nearest house was almost half a mile away. Nobody had seen anything unusual. Nobody had seen a stranger. Nobody knew anything about the property. That night, despite police recommendations, we stayed in the house. My father insisted that whoever had been there was gone. The attic had been searched. The doors were locked. The cameras were active. Everything should have been safe. But around midnight, I noticed something strange. One of the photographs had somehow ended up on my bedroom desk. A photograph the police were supposed to have taken. The picture showed me sleeping. Written across the back in black marker were 4 words. I'm still here. My blood turned cold. I ran downstairs. My parents thought I was joking until they saw the photo. The police returned immediately. Again they searched everything. Again they found nothing. But before leaving, one officer quietly told my father something that changed everything. Years earlier, the house had belonged to an elderly man who lived alone. One winter he vanished. His body was never found. The case remained unsolved. The property sat abandoned for years before we bought it. Nobody knew what happened to him. Or if someone else had been living there afterward. After discovering the photograph, my father began searching parts of the house more carefully. That's when he noticed something odd in the basement. Behind a shelf of old paint cans was a wooden door. None of us remembered seeing it before. The shelf had always been there. The door appeared ancient. Covered in dust. Rusty hinges. No handle. Only a small metal latch. The police returned and opened it. Behind the door was a narrow tunnel. The tunnel disappeared beneath the foundation of the house. Nobody knew where it led. The officers entered first. Flashlights cutting through darkness. The passage stretched nearly 80 feet underground. At the end stood a tiny hidden room. Inside they found old blankets. Candles. Food containers. And newspaper clippings. Most of the clippings were about missing persons. The walls were covered with photographs. Not only of my family, but previous families who had lived there. Dozens of them. Some photos appeared decades old. The room felt less like a hiding place and more like a shrine. Then one officer found something that made everyone uncomfortable. Fresh footprints. Whoever used the room had been there recently. Very recently. Maybe even that same day. The following night, my father reviewed every security camera recording. Hour after hour. Nothing unusual. Then around 3 a.m. he found something. The hallway camera showed movement. Not a person. A shadow. A dark shape moving across the wall. The figure appeared for only 3 seconds. But something about it felt wrong. The movement wasn't natural. It looked almost as if someone was crawling. Later that night another camera recorded a noise from the basement. My father watched carefully. The basement remained empty. Then a loud bang echoed. The camera shook. A second later, the hidden door slowly opened by itself. No person appeared. Nothing came out. But from inside the tunnel came a sound. A laugh. A low whispering laugh. My father immediately called the police. When officers arrived, they searched the tunnel again. This time they discovered muddy footprints leading away from the hidden room. The tracks disappeared into darkness beyond a collapsed section of earth. The person had escaped. Yet the question remained. How were they entering the house? And how long had they been watching us? 3 days later I was home alone. My parents had gone shopping. My sister was with friends. The house felt unusually quiet. I sat in the living room playing games on my phone. Then I heard my mother's voice. From upstairs. Can you come here for a second? I looked up. Confused. I knew she wasn't home. Maybe I imagined it. Then I heard it again. Exactly the same voice. Come upstairs. Every hair on my body stood up. The voice sounded perfect. Exactly like my mother. But she wasn't there. Slowly I backed toward the front door. Then a third voice spoke. A man's voice. Soft. Close. Almost whispering into my ear. Don't leave yet. I ran outside. I didn't stop until I reached the road. Police searched the house once more. Again they found nothing. Yet one officer admitted something disturbing. Several witnesses from neighboring properties over the years had reported hearing voices around the woods. Voices mimicking family members. No explanation was ever found. A week later investigators expanded their search into the surrounding forest. What they discovered shocked everyone. Less than a quarter-mile behind our property stood the ruins of an abandoned hunting cabin. The structure was falling apart. Rotting wood. Broken windows. Collapsed roof. Inside they found evidence of someone living there. Fresh food. Sleeping bags. Batteries. Candles. And hundreds of photographs. Photographs of nearby homes. Nearby families. Nearby children. The walls were covered from floor to ceiling. One section contained only pictures of our house. Every window. Every door. Every family member. Whoever lived there had been observing us constantly. Yet there was no sign of the person. No identification. No fingerprints. Nothing. Just before leaving, one detective noticed a sentence scratched into the wooden wall. It read, "The house belongs to me." 2 nights later everything came to an end. At 2:13 a.m. every camera in the house stopped recording simultaneously. The screens went black. The power failed. The house fell silent. Then came the footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Above us. Inside the attic. My father grabbed a flashlight. Police were already on their way after our emergency call. The footsteps moved toward the attic hatch. Then stopped. The hatch creaked open. Silence. My father pointed the flashlight upward. For a moment nothing appeared. Then two pale eyes reflected the light. Someone was staring down at us. The figure suddenly moved, dropping back into darkness. Police arrived seconds later. Officers rushed into the attic. This time they caught him. A thin man. Dirty clothes. Long tangled hair. Living inside the hidden spaces of the property for years. Perhaps decades. The photographs. The voices. The stalking. Everything finally made sense. Yet one mystery remained. The man claimed he had never entered our bedrooms. Never taken the photograph that appeared on my desk. Never written the message. And according to investigators, his fingerprints didn't match the ones found on that picture. We moved out 2 months later. The house was eventually demolished. The man arrested that night was connected to numerous trespassing incidents throughout the area, but never charged with anything violent. The story should have ended there. Yet years later something happened. While unpacking old storage boxes in our new home, I discovered an envelope. Inside was a photograph. One I had never seen before. The picture showed me standing in front of the old house. The date on the back was written 2 years after the house had been demolished. Below the date were 6 handwritten words. I found you again. I don't know who took the picture. I don't know when it was taken. And I don't know who wrote the message. But I do know one thing. Every night before going to sleep, I still check the attic. Just in case. Because some nightmares don't end when you wake up. Sometimes they follow you home.